What if your peace has never been in the hands of others? Not in their words, their actions, or even in their attempts to wound you. The truth is, no one has ever truly made you angry. They have only revealed the places within you that have yet to heal. Most people move through life in a state of reaction, emotional puppets pulled by strings they refuse to see. A single comment can ruin a day. A single betrayal can break a spirit. One misunderstanding can escalate into a war. But it does not have to be this way. The Stoics believed that true strength isn't about being untouchable. It's about being unshaken. Your calm was never meant to be a fragile thing, constantly at the mercy of another's mood, opinion, or mistake. It is meant to be rooted in reason, in clarity, in the part of you that can step back, breathe, and choose how to respond, not merely react. The world will test you. That is a given. But whether you are pulled into its chaos is a choice. This is about reclaiming that choice. It's about learning to protect your calm as if it were sacred, because it is. Through the lens of Stoicism, we will explore the most powerful shifts you can make, starting today. Not abstract philosophy, but grounded, practical steps to stop being at war with the world and start leading from within. And if these ideas resonate with something true inside you, consider subscribing. It is a small gesture that helps us reach more minds like yours, a quiet signal that you are walking this path with intention. 1. Anger is not what you think it is. Let us speak of anger, not the kind that erupts in fire and fury, but its quieter cousin, the kind that simmers when someone lets you down or crosses a line you thought was clear, the kind that settles in your chest and whispers, "How could they?" We often believe our anger is about them, the person who was rude, disrespectful, or careless. But what if, more often than not, it isn't about them at all? What if it's about the story you were telling yourself, the silent expectation you held that the other person never even knew they were supposed to meet? Anger appears when reality fails to match the mental script you were holding. You expected more thoughtfulness. You expected loyalty, gratitude, or a simple thank you. And when it didn't arrive, your mind declared, "This is not how it is supposed to be." But who decided how it was supposed to be? Did the other person agree to your terms? Did they even know what they were? Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." This strikes a deep chord. For what if your anger is not merely a reaction, but a mirror? What if it is showing you something unresolved within, something worth exploring rather than suppressing or exploding over? Stoicism teaches us to challenge our own assumptions. So when another's behavior makes you angry, the Stoic response is not to lash out. It is to pause, trace the anger to its root, and ask, what was I hoping for that did not happen? What belief was just threatened? Imagine this. A friend cancels on you again, and you find yourself fuming. The anger isn't about the canceled plan itself. It's because somewhere in your mind a belief was violated. People who care about me follow through. And perhaps that belief stems from past disappointments, from a place where you felt unimportant or forgotten. This is not weakness, it is human. But the key is to recognize that the anger is not about this single moment, but about a deeper wound being touched. Socrates once said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." When it comes to our emotions, especially anger, examination is where wisdom resides. Instead of reacting blindly, you begin to ask, why did this bother me so deeply? Why this, and why now? And just like that, you shift from being controlled by your emotions to learning from them. Aristotle believed that anyone can become angry. That is easy. But to be angry with the right person, at the right time, for the right reason, and in the right way, that is the difficult part. That is the art of emotional maturity. So here is a simple practice. When you feel that frustration rise, instead of clenching your jaw or firing off a message, take a breath. Ask yourself, what expectation was just violated, and why was I so attached to it? You will be surprised how often that single question can dissolve the intensity. Anger is not your enemy. It is a compass, but only if you are willing to read it correctly. 2. Silence is a position of power. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. This may sound counterintuitive in a world that celebrates the loudest voice, the sharpest comeback, the most viral retort. We have been taught that silence is weakness, that if you do not speak up immediately, you are letting someone walk all over you. But what if that isn't true? What if, in many cases, silence is not surrender, but profound self-control? Most of us have said something in the heat of the moment that we wish we could take back. A sentence fired off without thought, a text sent in anger, a comment that burned a bridge. But how often do we truly regret pausing? Rarely. Silence almost never haunts you. Angry words, however, can echo for a lifetime. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca wrote, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." And he was right. When we react instantly, we are not responding from a place of wisdom. We are reacting from impulse, and impulse is rarely wise. Think of silence not as passivity, but as power under control. In that moment when someone disrespects you or challenges you, your immediate instinct may be to fight back. But if you can resist that urge and simply pause, something incredible happens. You begin to see the situation with clarity. You separate your ego from your values. You grant yourself the time to choose your response instead of becoming a slave to your emotions. When someone gets under your skin, it is not always about them. Sometimes it is a sign that there is something inside you that needs attention. And silence, even just a few seconds of it, gives you the space to notice. Plato taught that a wise man speaks because he has something to say, a fool because he has to say something. Let that sink in. You do not always need the last word. In fact, by choosing not to engage in every minor battle, you conserve your energy for what truly matters. Silence becomes a filter, letting the nonsense pass by while you remain steady. This is not about bottling things up or suppressing your feelings. It is about choosing your timing, your tone, and your moment. In the pause between stimulus and response, that is where your power lies. So the next time you feel the fire rising, simply pause. Count to 5. Let them talk. Your duty is not to correct every offense. Your duty is to protect your peace. As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And sometimes, the strongest reaction is no reaction at all. Silence is not weakness. It is wisdom in motion. 3. Learn to laugh at the absurd. Something remarkable happens when you stop taking life so seriously, not in a careless, avoidant way, but in a grounded, I will not let this steal my peace way. Life presents absurdities daily. A rude driver, a passive-aggressive comment, a plan that derails for the third time. And yet, we often react with shock, as if we expected the world to suddenly behave. But here is a truth the Stoics knew well. Suffering intensifies when you demand that reality be different than it is. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." And what better way to challenge that estimate than with a laugh? Laughter is not weakness. It is a form of resistance. It is your soul refusing to be diminished by pettiness. It is the calm refusal to let small things become heavy burdens. When you laugh, you are not pretending a problem doesn't exist. You are simply making it clear that the problem does not get to define your emotional state. Aristotle noted that laughter is a trait unique to humans. That tells us something profound. It is not just a social reflex. It is a tool, one we can use to cut through tension, to shrink problems down to their actual size, and to remind ourselves that this one moment is not everything. Think about it. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You can slam the horn, yell into the void, and replay the injustice for hours. Or you can exhale and smile as if to say, "Ah, yes, chaos, doing its thing." The moment is the same, but the energy is entirely different. The first response keeps you tense and reactive. The second keeps you human. Carl Jung offered a perspective that adds another layer, saying, "Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness." The message is clear. Expect some mess. And when it arrives, choose how you will meet it. Plato believed that comedy and tragedy were two sides of the same coin. You see this in daily life. One moment you are frustrated, but step back just a few feet and suddenly the situation is funny. It is ridiculous. It is just life being life. The real challenge is choosing your response. Not everything deserves your outrage. Not every hiccup requires a meltdown. Sometimes the most stoic move isn't discipline or silence, it is lightness, it is perspective, it is that quiet smile that says, "I see the chaos, and I choose peace anyway." So here is your new reflex. When something absurd happens, before you react, just grin. Even if it's just a flicker, let that grin remind you that you are bigger than this moment. You are not here to be tossed about by every little thing. You are here to move through life with grace. And sometimes, that grace begins with a laugh. 4. Play the long game, not for the instant win. There is a quiet strength in walking away from a fight you know you could win. Not from fear, not from a lack of sharp words, but from a deep, inner knowing that your peace is more valuable than proving a point. The true measure of power isn't dominating an argument. It is not needing to. Think of how many times you have won a debate, only to be left with a strange, empty feeling. Perhaps you were right. Perhaps you made your case perfectly. But instead of feeling victorious, you felt agitated, heavy, perhaps even a little guilty. That is because the goal was not truth. It was control. And control rarely brings peace. The Stoics had a word for this ideal state. Apatheia. Not apathy in the modern sense, but a state of inner calm that cannot be disturbed by the chaos of others. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire rife with conflict, wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, do not lower yourself to meet someone in their mess. Rise above it. When someone triggers us, it is rarely just about them. It is about what that conflict stirs within us. Our need to be seen, to be heard, to be right. But not every trigger deserves a response. Some simply need to be observed. Plato believed that self-mastery was the highest form of freedom, and that includes mastering your reactions. If you must always have the last word, you are not free. You are hooked, led by a leash held by anyone who knows how to push your buttons. But when you choose peace over pride, you become unshakeable. This does not mean you let people walk all over you. This is not about passivity or avoiding difficult conversations. It is about discernment. It is about asking yourself in the moment, is this battle worth my energy, or is it just noise? Because your energy is a finite currency. Once spent, you do not get it back. Socrates famously said, "Strong minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, weak minds discuss people." When a conversation descends into gossip, accusation, or ego, consider whether it is worth your participation at all. Zoom out. Ask yourself, what kind of life am I trying to build? Who am I becoming in this moment? The truth is, you can win the argument and still lose the connection, lose your composure, lose a piece of yourself. Perhaps the real victory, then, is knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to defend your truth, and when to simply walk away with your dignity intact. Not everything is worthy of your reaction. Save your energy for the moments that will truly shape your future. Let the rest go. 5. Turn emotional control into a private game. There is a quiet pride in remaining unbothered, not in a fake, I don't care posture, but in a deeply intentional way that declares, I choose peace over pettiness. Life provides endless reasons to react. People cut in line. Someone speaks down to you. A message is left unread. But what if you were to flip the script? What if you turned these moments into training for your mind? This is where the Stoics were ahead of their time. They didn't aim to feel nothing. They aimed to master what they felt. The philosopher-emperor Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." So, if someone's attitude ruins your day, the fault is not entirely theirs. It is a sign that your inner world requires fortification. Here is a new way to approach it. Make calm your personal game. Start counting how many times today you could have reacted but chose not to. That is your private scoreboard. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You breathe and let it go. 1 point to you. Someone makes a snarky comment. You offer a calm smile. Another win. This turns emotional self-control from a chore into a challenge. And when you gamify it, something remarkable happens. You begin to look forward to the opportunities to practice your composure. You begin to notice just how much control you actually possess. Aristotle once said, "What it lies in our power to do, it lies in our power not to do." This applies perfectly here. You can always speak, you can always fire back. But it is in the moments when you choose not to that character is forged. This is self-mastery. This is how mental strength is built. Carl Jung added another layer saying, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Think about that. Every time you snap without thinking, you are being led by unexamined habits. But when you pause, reflect, and respond with intention, you are actively rewiring your own patterns. And let us be clear, this is not about suppressing how you feel. That is neither healthy nor sustainable. It is about becoming so aware of your emotions that you know how to guide them instead of being guided by them. You are not pushing them down, you are lifting yourself above them. Plato taught that the first and best victory is to conquer yourself. That victory does not happen once. It happens dozens of times a day, in the comments you ignore, the gossip you do not spread, the thoughts you question before they become actions. So try it. Track your calm like a high score. Each moment you remain grounded is proof that you are leveling up. It will not be perfect. But every time you choose not to react, you prove to yourself that you are not here to be easily shaken. You are here to lead yourself. And that is the only game worth winning. 6. Accept life as it is, not as you wish it were. There is an exhausting habit most of us have, often without even realizing it. We build intricate mental scripts for how other people should behave. We expect our friends to always be reliable. We expect our partners to never hurt our feelings. We expect our leaders to be fair and reasonable. And then, when they inevitably stray from our script, we feel disappointed, confused, even betrayed. But here is the part we seldom admit. The script was ours. We simply forgot to tell them they were actors in a play we wrote. The philosopher Epictetus offered a simple, powerful truth. Some things are up to us, and some are not. That is the dividing line. It can be a difficult truth to accept until you realize how much peace is hidden within it. The moment you stop expecting people to be different than they are and start focusing only on how you show up in response, you reclaim your sanity. You suffer less when you stop arguing with reality. You stop waiting for people to finally get it, for life to suddenly make sense, for the world's injustices to correct themselves. Plato once said, "Reality is created by the mind. We can change our reality by changing our mind." This is the heart of Stoicism, a shift in perception, not a demand for perfection from the world around you. Carl Jung added depth to this idea when he wrote, "We cannot change anything until we accept it." Think about that. The longer you resist what is, the longer it owns you. The unfair boss remains unfair. The flaky friend continues to flake, and you exhaust your emotional energy in the same futile loop, asking, "Why are they like this?" That question never brings clarity. It only brings drainage. Instead, ask the question the Stoics asked. What is within my control right now? Not, can I change them? But, can I control the mental space I give them? Can I control my reaction? Can I control whether their behavior dictates my peace? Socrates taught that the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. That includes building your new mindset. When you release the need for others to behave in a way that makes you comfortable, you become less reactive, less disappointed, and more grounded. You begin to live in reality, not in the fantasy of how you wish things were. Acceptance is not surrender. It is a profound elevation. It is saying, I see this situation for what it is. I may not like it, but I will not let it own me. Once you stop needing everyone around you to act right in order for you to feel right, you begin to experience a new kind of freedom, a calm that is not dependent on conditions, a peace that is not borrowed. It is built, and that is where your true power begins. 7. Stop taking everything personally. It is a deeply human, almost reflexive instinct to take the world personally. When someone doesn't text back, when a coworker gives a cold stare, when a friend pulls away without explanation, our minds jump straight to self-blame. Did I say something wrong? Are they mad at me? Did I mess up? But here is the truth. Most of the time, it's not about you at all. People carry entire worlds inside them, unseen stress, insecurities, distractions, and pain. And sometimes, you just happen to be standing close when those things leak out. The Stoic emperor, Marcus Aurelius, said, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." That wasn't pessimism. It was preparation. He understood that most people act from their own inner noise, not out of a personal attack on you. So why take their behavior so personally? When someone's actions sting, that's often a signal pointing back to something inside us. Maybe an old wound, or a need for validation. But the mistake is thinking it's always a reflection of your worth. It's not. Plato taught that we see the world not as it is, but as we are. Our filters, shaped by past experiences and emotional states, can twist a neutral event into something that feels deeply personal. So when someone snaps at you, your reaction might be more about how you interpret it than what they actually meant. This is why the Stoic practice of distinguishing appearances from reality is so powerful. You pause, you look again. You ask, what else could this mean? Think of it like this. You're not the center of everyone's story, and that isn't a bad thing. It's freeing. It means you don't have to carry their energy. You don't have to fix their moods. You don't have to own their reactions. Aristotle said, "To avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing." But even that wouldn't guarantee peace, because people will still project their inner chaos onto you. So what do? You create space, an emotional distance, enough room to say, maybe this isn't mine to hold. You remind yourself, over and over if needed, what if this isn't even about me? That single thought can be a shield, soft, but strong. Socrates believed that wisdom begins in knowing how little we actually know, and that includes knowing why people behave the way they do. So stop filling their silence with self-blame. Stop interpreting every weird mood as a reflection of your flaws. You are not responsible for the storm someone else is fighting. You're only responsible for not letting it drag you under. That's Stoic strength. Responding with clarity, not confusion. Holding your center, even when others lose theirs, and realizing that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is not to take it personally. There's something addictive about anger. In the moment, it feels like armor. You feel sharp, alert, ready to strike. Your heart pounds. Your words get faster, louder. It feels like power, like control. But then the dust settles, and what's left? Regret. Distance. That awkward silence after something's been said that can't be unsaid. Broken trust that might never fully heal. Anger is a master of disguise. It shows up dressed as strength, but deep down it's often just fear or pain looking for an exit. It tells you that exploding is the only way to be heard. But really, it's the easiest way to lose your ground. Anger is like that friend who hypes you up for a fight and then disappears the second real consequences arrive, leaving you to clean up the mess alone. The Stoics knew this well. When you react in anger, you might win the moment, but lose the relationship, the respect, your own peace. That discomfort, that urge to snap, is often a flare from your own inner world, pointing to old wounds or unmet needs. And if you can pause just long enough to examine it, you open the door to something far more powerful than anger: awareness. Plato believed that true courage is knowing what not to fear. And sometimes, what we fear most is looking weak. We think that staying calm is surrendering power, when in reality, it's the highest form of control. The person who can stay centered when everything around them is spinning, that's not weakness. That's strength with roots. The Stoic view of fire was this: use it wisely. Let it warm, not scorch. That means channeling the energy anger brings into something productive. Let it fuel a boundary, not a blow-up. Let it sharpen your clarity, not your tongue. Let it push you to act, but not to attack. As Aristotle once said, anybody can become angry. That is easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not within everybody's power and is not easy. That is emotional discipline. That's choosing your response instead of being owned by it. So, next time the fire rises, pause. Not because you're scared to speak, but because you respect yourself enough not to burn everything down. You can be assertive without being aggressive. You can be clear without being cruel. You can stand your ground and still walk away with grace. Because real power doesn't come from yelling louder. It comes from staying calm longer. There's a quiet weight we carry when we hold on to pain. Not the pain itself, that comes and goes, but the story we attach to it, the grudge, the resentment, the replaying of what someone said, what they did, what they never apologized for. And every time you think about it, you feel that sting again, the same hurt recycled through memory. It's exhausting. Here's the hard truth. The person who hurt you probably isn't thinking about it anymore. They've moved on. They're living their life, sipping coffee, scrolling through their phone, unaware that they still live rent-free in your mind. Meanwhile, you're carrying their words like a fresh wound. But it's not fresh. It's old scar tissue you keep picking at. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." In other words, don't let someone else's cruelty turn you into a prisoner of your own bitterness. Don't let their behavior dictate your inner world. That's not justice. That's surrendering your peace. Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." That's the shift. Letting go isn't about erasing the past. It's about refusing to let it define you. It's saying, yes, this hurt. Yes, it changed me, but I will not let it shape who I am moving forward. You take back authorship of your own story. Aristotle believed that we are what we repeatedly do. So if you rehearse resentment, if you practice bitterness, you become shaped by that energy. It becomes your emotional baseline. But you can choose to interrupt that cycle. You can choose to practice something else. Forgiveness, not for them, but for yourself. Plato taught that the soul is harmed more by injustice committed than injustice received. When you hold a grudge, when you fantasize about getting even, you are prolonging your own suffering. You're tethering your peace to someone who may never make it right. So try this. Just once. Say it out loud. This happened. It hurt. But it's over. Not because you're okay with it, not because it was fair, but because you're done letting it hold you hostage. Say it for your sanity, not their sympathy. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting, or that what they did was acceptable. It means you're done reliving it. You're done bleeding for someone else's wound. You're finally choosing to stop carrying something that no longer serves your growth. The Stoics aimed to live wisely, to let go of what they couldn't control, to stay grounded in the present, not dragged backward by the past. So maybe real strength isn't in holding on. Maybe it's in saying, I've carried this long enough, now I'm setting it down. And then walking forward, lighter, freer, wiser. One of the quickest ways to lose your peace is to try and manage everyone else's life. It sounds noble at first, wanting to help, to guide, to protect the people you care about. But somewhere along the way, it shifts. Helpfulness becomes control, and suddenly your mood is tied to their decisions. Your energy is spent chasing their change, and your sanity hangs on whether or not they get it. It's a losing game. You cannot control other people. Not your partner, not your children, not your parents. You can't control your friends, your coworkers, or that one relative who refuses to listen. Influence? Sure. Inspire? Absolutely. But control? That was never yours to hold. The Stoics were crystal clear about this. Epictetus said, "Some things are in our control and others not." The problem is, we forget which is which. We think if we just say it the right way, if we just care hard enough, people will change. But change doesn't happen on your timeline. It happens on theirs, if it happens at all. Carl Jung offered a powerful insight. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. Instead of trying to fix everyone else, start with yourself. Are you modeling the calm, the clarity, the compassion you wish they had? Are you showing, not just telling, what growth actually looks like? Socrates believed that true wisdom was knowing how little we truly know, and that applies doubly to other people's paths. You don't know what they need to learn, or when they need to learn it. Trying to force the lesson on them only pushes them further away. Have you ever wanted to listen to someone who constantly hovered over your choices? Probably not. Aristotle said, "The ultimate value of life depends upon awareness and the power of contemplation rather than upon mere survival." That awareness begins with recognizing your limits. You can offer insight. You can extend patience. You can hold space. But the moment your peace hinges on their progress, you've handed them the keys to your emotional house. Your real job is not to micromanage grown adults. It is to lead by example, to stay steady, to show kindness without controlling, to give advice without expecting obedience, to release people from the unspoken contract that says, "You must change so I can be okay." Let them walk their own path, even if it looks messy, because the freedom you give them, it also frees you. And in that space, you both get to grow, not through force, but through choice. That's real leadership. That's Stoic strength. And it's the path that brings peace, not just for them, but for you. It's astonishing how quickly the mind fills in the blanks. Something small happens. Someone forgets to reply to a message, interrupts you mid-sentence, or gives you a strange look. Within seconds, your brain has built an entire story around it. A story where you are overlooked, disrespected, or never quite enough. And before you realize what's happening, you're not just reacting to the event. You're reacting to the story you told yourself about the event. This is where the Stoics bring us back to center. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." That line is deceptively simple, but it's everything. It reminds us that there is always a choice between the stimulus and the story we create around it. We can jump straight into assumptions, or we can pause and examine the narrative we're spinning. Carl Jung had a similar insight when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." In other words, unless you start questioning the stories you've absorbed, from childhood, past relationships, or society, you'll keep reacting the same way and blaming the outside world for it. So, here is the practice. First, awareness. Catch the moment your body tightens, your chest gets hot, or your mind starts racing. That's the signal. Instead of letting it sweep you away, just notice it. Second, control. This doesn't mean pushing the feeling down. It means slowing your response. It means taking a breath, counting to 5, or simply asking, "Wait, what's really going on here?" And finally, direction. This is where your power lies. You choose a better, more grounded interpretation. Maybe they didn't ignore you, they just didn't see the message. Maybe that criticism wasn't meant to hurt, it was just blunt. Maybe this isn't a personal attack at all, it's just life being messy. Socrates taught that the unexamined life is not worth living, and that's what this is about. Examining the meaning we assign to things before letting those meanings rule our emotions. Because most of the time, it's not the situation that upsets us. It's the story we tell ourselves about the situation. Aristotle said that wisdom begins in wonder. So wonder, even when you're triggered. Wonder if the story is real, or just familiar. Wonder if this is a chance to react the way you always have, or the way you wish you could. You can't always control what happens, but you can absolutely rewrite the script your mind runs with. The more you practice, the more you become the author of your response, not a character tossed around by your reactions. That's not just emotional intelligence. That's Stoic mastery. Let's be honest. Most of us don't walk into an argument looking for clarity. We walk in looking for a win. Deep inside, a quiet voice says, "I need to be right." And that's where the trouble begins. Once ego takes the wheel, the actual problem becomes a background prop. The conversation turns into a battle of pride, not a search for understanding. Socrates believed that real, open, thoughtful dialogue was the foundation of wisdom. But how often do we actually have those kinds of conversations? Too often, we're not listening to understand. We're listening to reload, crafting our comeback while the other person is still talking. That's not communication. That's combat. The Stoics warned against this. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Simple, but powerful, especially when tensions rise. In a heated moment, the most radical thing you can do is stay calm. Not passive, calm. There's a difference. That sting you feel during an argument is often less about what was said and more about what was touched inside you. An insecurity, a fear, an old wound. If you can pause long enough to see that, you stop reacting and start responding. Imagine approaching an argument with a different goal. Not to win, but to resolve. Not to dominate, but to connect. What changes? Try this next time. Lower your voice. There's a natural instinct to raise it when we feel threatened, but a calm voice disarms tension. It changes the energy in the room. It signals, "I'm here to talk, not to attack." Then, ask better questions. Instead of, "How could you say that?" Try, "What made you feel that way?" Instead of, "What's your problem?" Try, "What are you really trying to say?" Questions like these open up space, not just in the conversation, but in the other person's mind. Aristotle believed that true wisdom lies in knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. In arguments, that wisdom appears in your ability to pause and say, "Help me understand." Not sarcastically, genuinely. Those 3 words can take the heat out of almost any conflict. And when everyone else is reactive, the calmest person becomes the anchor. They don't just calm themselves, they calm the room. People look to them because composure is magnetic. Strength that doesn't shout is rare, and rare things lead. So next time you find yourself in a conflict, don't aim to win the argument. Aim to keep your integrity. Aim to steer the room not by force, but by presence. That's how leaders move. That's how Stoics think. That's how real change starts. Sometimes your body knows the storm is coming long before your mind does. You're trying to focus, and suddenly your jaw is tight. Your chest feels heavy. Your breath shortens. And then, almost like clockwork, something small sets you off. But it wasn't that one comment or that little delay. The trigger was just the last drop. The tension had been building, and your body tried to warn you. Modern psychology confirms this. Carl Jung once said, "The body is the unconscious mind." That tight chest, that knot in your stomach, those clenched fists, they aren't random. They're messages. Signals that something in your inner world is trying to get your attention. Most of us don't listen. We push it down. We distract ourselves. We stay busy. Until suddenly, one small thing turns into a full-blown explosion, and we're left wondering, where did that come from? The Stoics understood this pattern. Epictetus taught that we are disturbed not by things, but by the views we take of them. But how can you adjust your view when you're already spiraling? That's where bodily awareness comes in. When you notice the tension early, you get a chance to stop the spiral before it takes over. Socrates believed the secret to change is to focus all your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Learning to tune into your body is how you build that new. It means catching the signal before it becomes a scream. It means seeing the clenched jaw as a whisper, not a failure. Here's a practical way to start. The next time you feel that inner squeeze, pause. Don't react, just notice. Breathe in deeply through your nose, hold for a second, and exhale slowly through your mouth. Then ask yourself one question. What am I really reacting to? Not what just happened, but what it's hitting inside of you. Is it rejection? Is it fear? Is it an old wound being poked? The answer is your first step out of the storm and back to your center. Plato once mused that the body is the vessel of the soul. If we accept this truth, Then, learning to listen to your body becomes an act of learning to understand your deeper self. This is not an act of weakness, but one of profound wisdom. It is the path to becoming less reactive and more responsive, less chaotic and more composed. The world, in its relentless way, will continue to test you. People will speak, act, and forget, creating ripples in your calm. But if you can remain attuned to your inner signals, treating your body as a trusted ally, not an adversary, you begin to move through life with a quiet strength, a palpable presence that is felt long before a word is spoken. Consider your body an early warning system. Do not ignore its whispers. Respect them. Work with them. This practice transcends mere emotional intelligence. It is the very architecture of Stoic resilience, built from the inside out. This resilience leads us to another sacred duty: to protect your attention as if it were gold. Every day, your focus is a prize to be won, not just by the endless scroll of advertisements and notifications, but by people. People who seek a reaction, who test your patience, who pull at the threads of your energy. Some do so with the best of intentions. Others, not so much. Think of the internet troll baiting you with a careless comment, the coworker who finds nourishment in drama, the ghost from your past who reappears simply to test if they still hold a key to your emotional world. They all want something from you, even if it is only your emotional presence. But here lies a truth the Stoics understood in their very bones. Not everyone is worthy of your reaction. Not every voice deserves to be amplified by your energy. And one of the most overlooked forms of power is being selective about where you place your attention. As Carl Jung profoundly observed, what you resist persists. The more you engage with what drains you, whether out of anger, pride, or mere habit, the larger its shadow grows in your mind. A single negative comment ferments into a looping inner dialogue. A petty office squabble consumes the landscape of your day. A message from an ex reopens wounds you had just begun to heal, and you are left wondering why you feel so exhausted, scattered, and frayed. The answer lies not in what is happening around you, but in what you are choosing to grant your energy to. Socrates taught that a meaningful life is found not in knowing many things, but in discerning what truly matters. This is the filter you must apply. Before you react, before you even lean in with your focus, pause and ask a simple, powerful question. Does this deserve me? This is a profound shift in perspective. Instead of reacting to every stimulus, you begin to curate your mental space as if it were your most valuable possession, because it is. Aristotle believed the mark of an educated mind is the ability to entertain a thought without accepting it. You can witness the drama, hear the insult, observe the chaos, and still choose not to internalize it. You can let it drift by. You can scroll past, not from a place of indifference, but from a place of disciplined self-preservation. Because your attention is a currency, and if you spend it recklessly on the trivial, you will find yourself bankrupt in the accounts that truly matter: peace, clarity, creativity, and joy. Every response you give to that which is unworthy is energy stolen from that which is. So, guard it. Protect it as you would gold, for it is infinitely more precious. The more you master your attention, the more you master your life. You become less a product of your circumstances and more the architect of your inner world. And slowly, without announcement, you inhabit a calm so profound that others feel it, even if they cannot name it. You owe no one your presence, especially not those who demand it without having earned it. Let them fade into the background. Keep your gaze and your precious energy fixed on the life you are building, not on the noise that seeks to tear it down. This is the essence of Stoic living: quiet, clear, and unbothered. And in that quiet, clear space, we discover our most immediate tool for peace: gratitude. It is remarkable how the smallest shift in perspective can alter the entire landscape of our inner world. A single thought, a fleeting moment of awareness, and suddenly, an emotional storm can lose its power. This is the quiet power of gratitude. It is not a flashy emotion, it does not shout for attention. Yet it possesses an almost magical ability to quiet the chaos within. Consider this. It is impossible to hold genuine anger and genuine gratitude in your heart at the exact same moment. Anger insists, "This is unfair." Gratitude softly replies, "But I still have this." It is like attempting to walk in two opposing directions at once. One must yield. This is why gratitude is the ultimate reset button for the soul. The Stoics understood this profoundly. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor wrestling with war, betrayal, and illness, reminded himself in his private meditations, "Do not hanker for what you do not have, but rather reflect on the blessings you possess, and imagine how you would long for them if they were not yours." This is not merely a pleasant thought, it is a potent strategy, especially when your emotions threaten to take command. Gratitude does not ask us to ignore our struggles. As Carl Jung noted, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." Gratitude is not a denial of the darkness. It is the courageous act of acknowledging the darkness and still choosing to see the light. It is the practice of anchoring yourself in what is real and good, not just in what is painful and wrong. Plato believed the soul attains wisdom through reflection. And what is gratitude, if not reflection in motion? It gently pulls you from the spinning vortex of anxious thoughts and returns you to the solid ground of the present moment, to what is still good, still true, still yours. So, I offer you a practical challenge. The next time you feel that familiar heat rising in your chest, the tightening in your jaw, the primal urge to lash out, pause, just for a moment. And in that sacred pause, name 3 things you are grateful for. Not monumental things, simple, real things. The roof over your head, the friend who always checks in. Even the self-awareness that allows you to notice your own anger and choose to pause. Socrates argued that contentment is found not by adding more to our lives, but by subtracting our false desires. Gratitude performs this exact function. It strips away the should-haves and the why-me's, returning you to the simple, profound truth of what is real and what is enough. From this centered place, you can respond with wisdom. Anger constricts your world to a single point of pain. Gratitude expands it, revealing the full tapestry. Anger fixates on the problem. Gratitude acknowledges the problem within a larger context of blessings. It may not solve everything instantly, but it provides the clarity needed to make a better next move. This is the secret key. Not because it allows you to escape reality, but because it grounds you in a deeper, more resilient one. Gratitude will not erase the challenge before you, but it will grant you the clarity to stop being consumed by it. And sometimes, that clarity is all you need to turn the moment around. Quietly, powerfully, and with unwavering grace. For your peace was never truly threatened by the noise of the world. It was always, and will always be, forged in the quiet strength you cultivate within. Every time you choose clarity over chaos, presence over reaction, you are not merely surviving, you are becoming.